Mr. Fortenberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, welcome.
Thank you.
I think the exact quote from General Mattis was, if we cut these multilateral programs, then send me more bullets. So I think that on the one hand, I'm very sympathetic to your position in that, particularly as a new administration, it is absolutely necessary that we go back and re-examine our multilateral commitments to ensure that they are fostering the goals of humanitarian necessity, economic cooperation, cultural exchange, and also stability in our own national security. With that said, we don't want to end up, though, with a contradiction whereby in our effort to increase our military's capacity, that we end up hollowing out the very things that build up the conditions for international stability. The military tells me, send us in last, do everything that you can to build up the types of relationships that lead to goodwill and friendship and take away the possibility of twisted forms of ideology or nationalism. So you've got 13 multinational programs under your authority, some of which are maintained, some of which are significantly cut. And again, I'm trying to do two things at once here. Be sympathetic to the reality that you ought to be re-examining these for metrics of outcomes that are consistent with what we want to see, namely stability in our own security, but also opportunity for others and ourselves. But at the same time, I think it's necessary to explain the rationale why these particular suggestions that you've undertaken, particularly two, the Global Agriculture and Food Security Program, which houses the Feed the Future initiative, which was a very strong bipartisan initiative to try to shift the types of assistance that we're undertaking to those who, to create capacity in one of the most pressing needs of the world in addressing the significant sources of poverty and sustainable food production, all tied again to stability and ultimately our own national security. The second one being the Global Environment Facility. Again, our money is leveraged very significantly with other donors that goes to really clear values of the United States in terms of protecting against wildlife trafficking, which leads to terrorist financing, creating the conditions in which biodiversity is advanced and environmental goals are protected. So those are two that I wanted to specifically ask for your rationale. In light of the earlier comments that I understand and that I think we ought to go through this exercise together of examining our multilateral commitments to ensure that there are sound metrics that meet our shared goals.
Sure. Well, let me just comment on the environmental ones first. Our main cutbacks was to the Clean Technology Fund and the Strategic Climate Fund. The Global Environment Fund, we're still requesting that we fund, although at a slightly lower level. So it was really prioritizing our dollars. And I think you know that as it relates to, that is the one that we think is the most effective and has the direct contributions. As it relates to the agricultural and food security program, we're more than happy to work with your office and get your views on that. And obviously, the final decisions of appropriations is subject to this committee. So you have a lot of experience in this, and I respect that. So to the extent that we needed to move money around to that you think we don't have the exact right goals, obviously we will work with you on that.
I think, Mr. Chairman, that's perhaps the most generous answer I've ever heard from a secretary in a cabinet before. Thank you. Because what that states is a willingness to try to partner to think constructively about this right mix of what we are achieving that is appreciative of that offer, and we'll take you up on that. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.